A power company charged with abuse of office are this evening breathing a sigh of relief. This after the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Court finally granted bail to the suspects. Each suspect has been released on a 3 million shilling bond, sureties of 2 million each, and a cash bail of 1 million shillings. Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti, in granting bail, said the prosecution had failed to put before the court material evidence or even stage compelling reasons to deny bail. KTN's Francis Ntomwa begins our bulletin tonight.
Anxiety was palpable, emotions bare, focus fixed firmly on Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogoti. The decision on bail was going to be a game changer in the 4.5 billion scandal that has dragged the senior officials to court. And when he talked to the stage, the Chief Magistrate said the prosecution had not convinced him on their opposition to bail.
The accused shall be released on bond under the following terms. Number 1, each to execute a personal bond of Kenya shillings 3 million. Each to be admitted to a bond of Kenya shillings 2 million with one surety of similar amount. Each is alternatively admitted to a cash bail of Kenya shillings 1 million. Each to deposit travel documents in court.
Additionally, the court setting some more orders.
Each is restrained not to approach any of the installations of KPLC officers or any interference with the functions of the KPLC, either by use of password or by any other means.
The discussion on bail is one that saw both sides of the divide engage in a tug of war for 2 consecutive days.
It is not wishful thinking. He is saying I've investigated and I know there are memos, phone calls, telling people do not cooperate.
No, I would like to object to the line he's taking, because he's introducing into the affidavit something that is not in the affidavit.
Who are these witnesses? Mr. Odinga should have sworn in his affidavit to state who interfered with a witness on which date.
You put the name of a witness in an affidavit who has already been threatened, you would be actually reckless as an investigator.
At least they have not shared with your family.
Earlier, a power outage forced the suspension of the bail hearing for almost 10 minutes. City lawyer Harrison Kinyanjui was caught up while making his submission. Francis Ntomwa, KTN News, Nairobi.
Let's now move to another unraveling story that has left many Kenyan households with bittersweet pellets. Now, the top management of Kenya Bureau of Standards, KEBS, failed to confirm the safety of the sugar that was seized by a multi-agency team. KEBS management took members of the National Assembly's Joint Committee on Agriculture and Trade in circles when asked whether the sugar should be destroyed or not. And as our senior parliamentary reporter Patrick Amimo tells us, the KEBS officials affirmed the tests at the laboratories have not detected mercury in seized sugar.
The National Assembly's Joint Committee resumed sittings to tie loose ends before it tables the final report on the contraband sugar to Parliament next week. Members are seeking answers on the safety of the sugar currently in the market. When top officials of the Kenya Bureau of Standards, KEBS, a body that determines the quality of goods entering the Kenyan market, appeared before Parliament, members expected decisive responses. But KEBS appeared to lack answers from the laboratory tests for the various types of sugar.
Some tests that require culturing, which takes about 6 days. And we had, because of course focusing on the sales to sugar, we had plenty of work in the labs.
There is a document you've given us today which shows clearly that there are only 2 samples which indicated the presence of copper. I want to produce another document the CS industrialization gave us, and this is your own document, where it showed was a number of actually those samples withdrawn which had different levels of copper and lead.
The document which came from the CS was originally from KEBS, so we are not withdrawing it.
Na kama mnaamini hakuna, mjitokeshe kwenda kwa Wakenya na kusimama kusema sukari hakuna makri. Kama mnajua bado, kwa sababu kila mtu ana wasiwasi akikaa kungoja hii report.
According to KEBS, out of 1.3 million 50 kilogram bags seized in various locations across the country, 66 samples representing 1.26 million 50 kilogram bags have been tested. This translates to about 96% of the total. Of these, 837,000 bags failed to comply with the standards. 705,000 bags among the failed samples included lots declared as sugar meant for reprocessing. Only 157,000 bags complied with standards. The sugar failed to meet standards in respect of moisture content, yeast and molds, color, total viable count, and polarization. KEBS says the level of failure is high among the seized sugar. The level of failure among the market surveillance samples is about 28%. KEBS attributes these failures to poor handling in storage after release from the ports of entry.
We were testing sugar for compliance to the requirements of the standard.
No. If the sugar has failed in one of these requirements, the standards you have said, should it be destroyed or not? We operate at the office of the president, which is higher. And
No. Kwa nini tunakaa kwenda round to round? Lazima watuambie bila iko na wajibu, na mimi pia nigombo chair. Wacha wajibu swali, wao usijibie.
KEBS detected copper in 2 samples which had been drawn from Isiri, and then they were detained at the DCI headquarters. All the other samples covering the 1.2 million bags did not show traces of heavy metals.
The multi-agency team and Sony Sugar Company will appear before the Joint Committee Wednesday. Patrick Amimo, KTN News.
So there's been lots of back and forth about the contraband sugar in the country. At what point there were allegations there's mercury, there's lead, there's copper. We also saw the conflicting reports by 2 CSAs, one saying there's mercury, the other one saying there isn't. And now we're hearing from KEBS. So tonight on our big question, we're asking you, who should be held responsible for the sugar scandal, the way it's panning out, what's currently happening, the back and forth that we're witnessing? Tweet us at KTN News, at KTN Kenya. You can also tweet me at Linda Ogutu. I'll sample some of your views just before we wrap up this bulletin. This is a story that touches millions of Kenyans out there. Great, let's move on now. And Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Environment probing the Solai tragedy this morning rejected a delegation led by Interior Chief Administrative Secretary Patrick Ntutu from representing CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i. Environment CS Keriako Tobiko also appeared before the panel to explain what his ministry has done in the restoration of the environment. Mark Namaswa was there for us.
With the clock ticking on the Solai probe, justice for victims and holding those responsible to account, Senate's ad hoc committee had lined up Interior CS Fred Matiang'i to respond to questions on the Solai tragedy probe. Instead, Interior Cabinet Administrative Secretary Patrick Ntutu showed up.
So could you tell us where the Cabinet Secretary is?
The Security Committee Council is ongoing, and he had thought that he can finish earlier so that he can come, but it has just started.
The committee will have none of it.
If he doesn't come, we'll make recommendations. But we have now summoned him to appear before us for the reasons that I've stated.
When Environment CS Keriako Tobiko's turn came, it also emerged from a report by the Environment Ministry and NEMA that dams at Patel Farm were constructed in questionable fashion.
Dam constructed with unsorted soil material. The dam lacks a spillway located near Major Road that connects Nakuru to Baringo.
Apart from the unlicensed dams, it was discovered that an 800-acre wildlife sanctuary in the farm was also set up and run in the same manner.
Mental Audi did not provide documents authorizing keeping of wild animals as per the requirements of the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act 2013.
Also rejected by the Senate committee was the environmental restoration order by NEMA directed at the farm owners. The committee arguing that it does not demonstrate the seriousness the matter deserves. Interior CS Fred Matiang'i is expected before the committee on Wednesday, while the Environment CS and his team return in a week's time. Mark Namaswa, KTN News.
Let's take you back to the courts, where a case in which the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is seeking Supreme Court interpretation on the implementation of Chapter 6 on leadership and integrity failed to take off following an objection raised by activist Okia Omtata. Omtata filed an application in which he argued that the subject matter in the petition was still active in two cases he had filed at the High Court against political parties prior to the August 8th general election. The 7-judge bench, chaired by Chief Justice David Maraga, adjourned to a later date to be communicated by the court, during which the judges will rule on whether to suspend or okay commencement of the KNHCR case.
Because the application is basically an appeal out of the various motions which have been determined, and it's clearly stated in the application that there are conflicting decisions that have been made by the lower courts, and they would like this court to harmonize them.
The very fact that there are many conflicting decisions in the High Court, as well as the Court of Appeal, is actually a pointer of suitability of the determination of this matter by way of this reference, other than through an adversarial process, as opposed to a question of harmonization.
Let's look at politics now. ODM party has now dared Ford Kenya party to relinquish all positions of leadership and committee seats they occupy in parliament through the NASA coalition after their party leader Moses Wetangula's proclamation that NASA is dead. According to the NASA coalition officials, Wetangula should stop playing to the political gallery and officially write to the registrar of political parties, informing them of the party's exit from the coalition. Our senior political affairs reporter, Chris Thairu, has more.
Just when did the rain start beating the NASA coalition?
Kalonzo atapisha baadaye.
Well, after the three other principals skipped the controversial oathing ceremony, and now 6 months down the line,
NASA is history. And for us, we always say those who ignore history run the risk of repeating it.
The statement seemed to have rubbed members of the ODM and ANC parties the wrong way, daring Wetangula to make good his threats.
For NASA to cease to exist, 3 political parties must pull out. That is what is in the coalition agreement. And Ford Kenya cannot declare NASA non-existent. They can only announce their exit from NASA.
If it is not tenable, the legal way of doing it is for him to convene the relevant party organ meeting and pass a resolution and write to the registrar of political parties.
You do not break a coalition in a funeral. You do not break a coalition in a church service. You is a lawyer of great repute.
ODM party, which enjoys majority of elected members in parliament compared to the other affiliate parties in NASA, have dared Ford Kenya to relinquish all the positions they enjoy in parliament.
When I watched Wetangula speak, I got a little concerned that this is a national leader who is just thinking him and him alone. Why I say that is because he kept on quoting, "I have been betrayed." It's not even the party.
Some of their members are serving in various positions in parliament, courtesy of NASA. For example, Honorable Chris Wamalwa is the deputy minority whip. If they exit, he will be the first casualty.
Removing themselves actually out of the coalition, then it is incumbent upon our leadership to decide whether to relinquish the leadership, or even them voluntarily, they may decide to relinquish the leadership, of which we welcome.
Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula have been complaining of being sidelined by their elder coalition partner, Raila Odinga, especially after the March talked about handshake between Raila and President Uhuru Kenyatta.
You cannot be talking about Raila Odinga has done this all the time. If you are aggrieved, move on. Don't behave like a jilted lover.
given that Ford Kenya Party is yet to notify the registrar of political parties of their intention to quit a NASA coalition through writing, the party still remains an affiliate party of NASA coalition, at least on paper. Chris Dairo, KTN News at Parliament Buildings.
Let's take you to the coast now. In November 2012, Omar Hussein Gari, the then chief of Ngombeni location, was allegedly injured in a grenade attack by someone he claims to know. His life has completely changed from the shrapnel's injuries, which remain stuck in his body. He narrated his ordeal to our coast-based reporter, Tobias Chanji. Listening.
We find the elderly Gary at his Ngombeni home in Kwale County, sunk in his seat under the sun's rays, perhaps thinking about his life and the future. He was employed in the year 1994 as chief, and 3 years later, the challenges started draining. At some point, he was suspended for 9 months on accusation of participating in the infamous Kayabombo clashes.
Nilipata tabu sana. Wakati kila mtu anajua hili lilikuwa si mambo ya machifu, yale mambo tu yalitokea, hakuna aliyejua.
On the material day, he was sitting outside his office attending to citizens.
Nikamwacha akaje mpaka pale pale. Asalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. Sina mjua ni mtoto. Kama 2 weeks back alikuwa na kesi na babake. Nikaja nikaiamua. Alikuwa hatakikani hapo kwao. Mwambie mzee, huyu ni mtoto wako barabara. Sasa ni hivyo hivyo, muache. Hasi ni muhisani wake mimi, akasamehewa. Kumbe mtoto alikuwa mnyama.
He tried to prevent with his hands, but it was too late.
Sakatia mkono hapa, mfuko wa shati. Namwona anainama. Sasa vile kusimama vizuri, ikawa kwangu ni blackout. Lakini ilikuwa too much. Hii ndio ilitoboa paka ndani.
But even after getting injured while on duty, the government does not come to his aid.
Niliachwa peke yangu. Na kutoka siku hiyo ndio unyonge wote.
Afya yake ilizorota sana. Wakati madaktari waligoma hii Kenya yetu nzima. Tulienda Moshi kupatiliza mtu huyo. Akaenda kafanywa upasuaji. Lakini kila wakati nilipokuwa anatafuta anapigwa mapicha kama MRI, CT scan, mwili wake ulikuwa unaonekana uko na chembe za gurneti. Tulipotoka Moshi tukaenda Aga Khan. Tukatibiwa Aga Khan. Ikashindikana. Tukarudi tena Aga Khan, tukalazwa. 700,000 hizo tukalipa tena. Mpaka tulishindwa na kulipa mpaka tukaeka title deed yetu, mpaka saa hizi ninavyokuambia title deed yetu bado iko kwa wakili. Tulipopeleka majibu Texas Cancer Center, ikaonekana ugonjwa umeenda kwa mgongo wote mpaka kwenye mifupa ya kifua hapa shingoni, yani mifupa yote ya mwili imekuwa attacked. 3 million and above tumetumia. Na sasa tunahitaji milioni 2 and above.
This is the office that Mzee Gari used to work from for a period of 18 years. But even after undergoing all these tragedies, he says he has not received any help from the government. He's now calling upon Good Samaritan to come to his aid. Tobias Chanji, KTN News, Ngombeni location, Kwale County.
Let's hope the chief can get some help and get better. Let's move on now. The Standard Group, in partnership with Cure Kenya, is set to launch the Step In campaign next week. The campaign aims to create awareness and raise funds towards surgical treatment for children with treatable disabilities. The launch will culminate in a dinner to celebrate 20 years of the organization's existence. Cure Kenya is a local NGO that has been offering medical care for children with disabilities such as clubfoot, cleft lip and palate, and disabilities stemming from polio, cerebral palsy, and other congenital abnormalities.
I'm also talking to mothers and fathers out there. Please stop hiding these children at home. You're not doing them a favor. My daughter is 14 years old, but most of you have seen her in the media singing. She's actually singing for God. She's been used as a vessel. She's accepted her condition. If you look at her, if you listen to her story, she knows that she has a bigger head than normal, but that does not stop her from living her life. And I think at some point, parents are stopping the lives of their children to continue because they're hiding them. They're looking at them as shame. I don't think these children are ashamed.
Most of the people might not understand the real thing about the spine. When Dr. Theory will stand, I have to explain. But what I have is that you are not going to be corrected the spine. If you are not going to correct a spine child, the lifespan yake itakuwa short because spine inaendelea kupinda, inaendelea kujikunja, ndio ina support organs, breathing, and also even the growth.
Let's now remind you of our big question tonight. We're asking you, who should be held responsible for the current scenario playing out in the sugar scandal? I did mention that KEBS today was not very categorical or clear whether or not that sugar is contaminated, whether or not it should be destroyed. So who should be held responsible for the sugar scandal that's currently being witnessed in the country? Tweet us at KTN News, at KTN Kenya. You can tweet me as well at Linda Gut. I'd like to pick your minds. I did mention that